Well, hello, everybody. Welcome once again. Where do we find ourselves? On top of the Acropolis in Athens, Greece. And here's this big, beautiful Grecian flag that's flying up there. Of course, you can see it on a clear day all over the city.
Yeah, a little bit windy the day that we were up there, and it
cleared out all the smog.
Yeah, great view from up there.
Well, look, you can even see down. You can see
all
down
over.
to the I want to say the Colosseum. Is that
what
right?
Is that? Yeah. What is that? That you say on a clear day you can see forever?
That's for sure.
Yeah,
well, at least you can see.
This is forever.
To the long ranges of Athens.
Yeah.
Anyway, and of course, as we mentioned, here is this chapel that's way up on the hill. We didn't have an opportunity to go up here, but that's probably the highest point that you can get to in Athens, and I'm going to make a guess here, Betty, because I don't remember.
Now be careful.
I think it's St. George. I think that's who that's dedicated to.
Well,
but I'm not absolutely perfectly clear on that.
Look at the red
but
tile.
It is clear from what we can see here, and you can look down from atop the Acropolis, and you can see parts of the city here. Just beautiful.
I love the red tile.
City.
I love and they're so close together because I guess the property was not flat enough to build too much. I don't know why,
very
but
hilly.
It was.
A lot of it. No, very much so. Right. And of course, I imagine that property is also today very expensive as well.
Oh, picture takers! Oh man,
just so beautiful. I just couldn't resist taking a picture of this flag blowing in the wind against that beautiful, clear blue sky that you see in the background.
So blue.
And it's kind of nice like this because, as I said, we've been up there before, and you didn't get quite the great view that we see today. But again, you can see now with the I want to say reconstruction work. That's probably not the right terminology, but the
restoration.
Restoration. That's what I'm looking for.
But
look, I didn't see this before, Betty. I went around and took a picture here of what would have been the ceiling, underneath the roof. And of course, this will all be cleaned off one of these days. But look at that work. Isn't it beautiful?
You know what? The ceiling there reminds me of St. Anne's Chapel. We have the lights up in the ceiling, something with little square things around it. Maybe we got that from the Greeks.
Yeah, it could have very well been. And of course, now these are the reproductions we saw in their last show. The figures that are in the museum, which is also located up here atop the Acropolis on the hill. And now this is inside the museum, and these are the actual pieces that were taken from the Acropolis. Of course, this had such a history, as we learned in the last show from our guide, and there was just so many people came and went and conquered the area. But fortunately, they were able to save some of these wonderful figures that we can see here. And it's just great that here we are centuries later, and we can enjoy these and see the original pieces that were there all over the top of the Acropolis.
I'm impressed, Marv, by the beauty of the people, their classic features, their bodies.
We always say, they look like a Greek god.
That's right. Well, they were just, and these are statues, so they had to be like
somebody had to model for them.
Yes, yeah, and they're just beautiful people, just beautiful. What they say, the Greeks had a word for it, but that's not even appropriate. But I'm impressed. I'm impressed with their culture. I'm impressed with their artistic ability, with their architectural progress that they do.
And that's the wonderful thing about it, is that there are lots of excavations that are going on all over the country of Greece. And you see that they take their time, and they're doing a wonderful job. I mean, places that we will see as we get into further shows here on the Adventures Travel Club television show on Greece, where we can see it was a 5-year period of time since we had been there before, but more and more things, and more, and especially when we get up to Delphi, oh my goodness sakes, I'm telling you, I could not believe how they have expanded the museum there, and more artifacts that they have found.
Look at the perfection of the features.
Mm-hmm.
Just beautiful. Really beautiful.
And of course, a lot of these things, there were a lot of color that was used too. Some of that has kind of disappeared in some of these. And, but it's just to me, it's just breathtaking to be able to see this and the stories that they tell. And I'm so glad that they've kept this in the museum, because as we know, in a lot of places in Europe, because of the pollution. The figures are becoming destroyed.
Sure, they deteriorate.
Now we're looking down toward the agora, or the marketplace. And this, of course, is a very, very ancient area. But we're looking from the top of the Acropolis down into that area. And that's a big area that you can go and visit. You can spend a whole day in this area alone. On this particular trip, we did not have the opportunity to spend time down there because we were going to get on a ship and go visit the Greek islands. So anyway, we sort of got a bird's eye view from here, but it was really quite beautiful. And this, of course, is the rock, the area where St. Paul preached when he was in Athens. And of course, this is very, very important to Christians. And this is part of the entrance to the Acropolis. And we're going to go down now from the Acropolis, and that whole area, Betty, too. They've landscaped that out, and there are lots and lots of olive trees there. But what we're looking at right now is that we're looking at the port, and this is where we're going to be leaving from shortly to take our tour of the Greek islands. Now, this is one of the biggest ports that I've ever seen, and so many ships that are there. But again, look at the scaffolding, Betty. Look at what they're doing. Isn't it marvelous?
Yeah. I don't understand going up with it. I guess from the earthquakes and things they've had, that the stones from the Acropolis or from the buildings fall down, and so they now are it's the restoration of building them back up to the height that they were originally.
Right. And that is the thing, that there were so many earthquakes that were all through Greece, and I guess they still have some, evidently. But yes. And that's why we see so many things that are still, in disarray.
And here anyway,
we're
go.
heading. We're heading toward the port now, and of course this is very exciting because getting on the ship and then spending our time, it was just so magnificent. But you can see part of the port right here, and there are so many ships that are there. But now let's listen to our guide.
Ahead of us is the Corinthian Gulf, that is part of the Ionian Sea. The idea to connect the two seas that at this point are so close goes back to the 6th century BC. At that time they had a special road. The city of Corinth had built that road. Diolkos was the name of the road. That means to pull through. They used to pull the ships from the one sea to the other using chariots. That was like a substitute of a canal. The city of Corinth collected fees from the passing ships. That made it very wealthy. Then Nero came in the 1st century after Christ to start with the construction of a canal. They started digging by hand from the other side, not from this side. But after Nero died, they didn't go on to finish it. The canal that we're going to see pretty soon was based on the same one that was started at Nero's time. They kept working on that same line. Of course, they used dynamite for the new canal, and it was the same engineer, the same French engineer, Ferdinand Lesseps, that made the Suez and the Panama Canal, who started working on this canal in 1880.
Betty, before we do take our cruise, we're going to go over to Corinth, and our guide had a place all picked out for us to go to lunch, and Betty, you and I said, no. We were at a place about 5 years ago, and we saw the most spectacular thing that we'd ever seen. It was a sinking bridge. And this, of course, is the canal that is dug between the two seas. So she says, do you want to go there? And we said, well, of course
Absolutely.
We do. And that bridge is right in front of us. So
that surprised me that she was surprised that was not on her agenda.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm glad that we knew.
Well, it's one of the highlights of the whole, I thought of the trip. I was excited.
Now, this is the bridge, and you can see right now it's starting to sink.
Did you ever know that really there was a sinking bridge?
It's on a hydraulic system.
Yeah.
And it's going down, and it's doing that so that these boats can come through the canal. Now, I didn't take the whole thing because it takes quite a long time for it to go down and then for it to come back up again too. But anyway, we see now it is down, and so here comes a little boat, And there's a tender there, some guy that's they both blow the boat whistle. I can't even say that. And so they'll lower the bridge, and then bingo, it'll come back up again.
We were most fortunate this time too, because the ships don't go through that often, and we just hit the right time. In fact, there were several ships that we got, and the people, fantastic.
Well, the other thing is that we sat right there and we ordered our lunch and had our lunch.
Here,
so
look at, there it comes.
Yeah, here it comes back up again. And then pretty soon the all clear whistle will blow, and as the bridge, connects to the road on either side, then the traffic will start going again.
I myself, even not watching it, I'm excited about it.
It was fun. It was fun to watch.
Fun to see.
It really was. And when we saw this a few years ago, as we said, boy, this was a surprise. We said, a bridge that's going underwater? Well, isn't that thing going to rust? Isn't it going to, fall apart? But no, it's well maintained. So here come the cars, and they're going over the bridge now. And again, as soon as they hear another whistle for the boat that signals them to go ahead and lower that bridge, well, that's what it will do. Now, a lot of fish in this water too, Betty.
A lot of fish. Now, cruise ships really can't go through this because they're too large. And there's always the danger of them getting stuck, between the narrowness of the.
But some of the big tankers can go through
the tankers, but they're flatter.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Oh
boy, we had somebody was having calamari, somebody was having pizza.
A lot of masuka.
What did you have to eat that day? You remember?
I'm not going to tell you because it was gross. I had a grilled cheese sandwich.
A grilled cheese sandwich. You went all the way to Greece and had a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
I had moussaka.
Well, I should have had the moussaka because I like it a lot, but I'm not a big eater. And
the big lunch eater?
No. And it just was too much for me. And then to be sitting in the bus again, so I don't eat heavy.
Well, here comes another boat. This is a tugboat. Now, this boat is pulling another boat. And look what's coming through now. Here's a big tanker.
And look at the size of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Oh, I know my people just love this.
Oh, it was great. It was great to see. Now, this ship probably was an oil tanker, I would imagine, and it was not really loaded down, so it's sitting kind of high in the water. But had it been, fully loaded, it would probably sat lower. And you're right. There's a certain depth to this, so it's restricted as to what size ships can actually come through this canal.
I think it's the width a lot more so than the depth, because of the, I don't know for sure, but they're afraid of getting caught in between in the shore.
Well,
banks.
now with these great big mega ships that are cruising around. Of course, it just and they're building bigger ones now. I was reading in the paper the other day. This one of the largest ones in the world. My goodness sakes, it's more than a floating city. I mean, just absolutely incredible. Well, there we can see now the ship has gone through, and I had to get a picture of the little fishies.
Yeah. Are they sardines?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure what they were, but a lot of people were trying to feed the fish. But now let's listen once again to our guide.
75 feet wide, and the depth of the water is only 26 feet. That's narrow and shallow. However, it's very impressive. Only average sizes of ships can go through. If that large ship that went through was full, it would be going very slowly because there is the fear of getting stuck. Cruise ships, very average sizes go through, not the large ones that are traveling the last few years. It is a canal of local importance. There is no plan to widen or deepen the canal. It shortens the way of the ships that are traveling from the one sea to the other by 185 sea miles. If they're too big, that is, they have to go around the peninsula of the Peloponnese, and that makes their trip by 185 sea miles longer. Here we're going over the canal. It's very impressive. Especially on the right you'll get a view. The right side is the Corinthian Gulf part of the Ionian Sea. And on there's a ship crossing. The other side on the left where we were is the Aegean Sea, the Saronic Gulf. Several bridges that go over.
I don't know. I just think it's absolutely marvelous that they were able to build that. Well, now here we are on the outskirts of Corinth, and this is very interesting because the city as we see right now is right there on the coast. But we're going to go up. You have to drive in a little ways to get to the ancient city of Corinth, which takes up a big place right here. And we'll look up on the mountainside too, where the ancient city was as well.
Why they kept digging deeper, and they were lucky to find the remains of the agora, the marketplace, on the right side from the column. So we'll go down there and we're going to see the tribune where the speakers would speak. It was there not where St. Paul preached, but where he was brought to court accused of introducing a new religion. This goes back to the classical times, the 5th century BC. This was a rock that was shaped like a building. Most probably there was a source of water here that doesn't exist anymore. You know, this is a country that gets a lot of earthquakes. So many times after earthquakes, the water disappears. That was the situation with several springs here. Anyway, the fountain was named after a local princess, Glos. Glos was a princess here that was going to become the second wife of Jason, this hero of the Greek mythology, the one with the Argonautic expedition, the search for gold. Well, according to the Greek mythology, Jason, who was married to Medea, an Oriental woman and a witch, he decided to divorce Medea and marry this local princess to become the authority here. After the divorce, Medea was very unhappy and jealous, and to punish her husband, she killed their children and sent the poisoned dress to the bride. The girl wore the dress to just try it on before the wedding, and she started burning. So to save herself, she fell in the water of that fountain that the Corinthians called Glos after her. So there's usually a tragic story behind many elements of nature. That's the Greek mythology. The columns in the old times were wooden. That's why they were one piece. But later, when they started making them of stone, it was getting harder to make them one piece, especially when the sizes got bigger. So it was only in the very beginning that they would make them of one piece. Later, they made them of 2, 4, and several more pieces. So the fact that it's monolithic and short is a factor that characterizes age. The shorter the columns are, also the older the building is. So this goes back to about 600 BC, while the Parthenon, they started building the Parthenon in about 450 BC. So there's a difference of about 150 years. So that makes a big difference. The stone is local. It's a kind of soft limestone that they use for mostly everything. This is a sample of one of the oldest temples that we have in Greece. You have to think of this as the back of the building. The building extended further east, so the other side would have been the entrance. This was the back. Here is a big hill. It's not like the Acropolis of Athens that was a low, steep hill. This is a much bigger hill that is called Acrocorinth. So the fortress was up there. You can see, there are walls up there quite well preserved. That is a fortress of the Crusaders of the Fourth Crusade. That fortress was built on top of the ancient Greek fortress. Inside the walls, they have discovered a sanctuary of Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love. It was the honoring of Aphrodite that led them to prostitution, because the prostitutes were priestesses of Aphrodite. Now, on the smooth slope of the mountain, they had the nice residential area. In general, the city must have been spread around here. To excavate, of course, they would need to move the village. That is very expensive. That is the reason why they just stay around this area. They keep expanding it, but very gradually. Many times people ask, aren't they working? Aren't they excavating? This is the area that they have excavated. They have decided not to do anything else about this. So they're just expanding around, but they're not usually working this time of the year. The summertime is better, of course, for their excavations. Now what we have down here is the agora. Every Greek city had an agora, a marketplace and a meeting place. What this was an open area where the authorities would call the people together to make serious announcements to them. In that area, they developed shops all around. They closed that open area by columns that formed porticos with shops behind. So that made it the market. They developed temples around this area too. some of which operated like civil services. So it was a part of the city that was constantly busy. People were making speeches, politicians or philosophers would speak to the people. People were here for their daily shopping, as all the shops of the town were developed around. And some had business in the temples that were like the civil services. So it was a place that was constantly full of people. You have this Greek word in English, agoraphobia, meaning fear of crowds, because the agora was always a crowded place. Now, we don't quite understand how it was, because there are various depths that you see, things put in order. They don't really give you a good idea of buildings. It was a flat area, but the level, most of the part that you see flat, is of the Roman city. Exactly underneath is the Greek city. The Romans destroyed the Greek city. It was one of the cities that resisted to the occupation. So they destroyed it completely. They considered it as a center of corruption. The inhabitants became slaves, and about 100 years later, that was in 146 BC, that they destroyed it. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar rebuilt it. So there is a second prime in the history of Corinth, the time of the Roman period. So in the 1st century AD, around 51 AD, St. Paul came here. This was the last place that he visited in his missionary journey. We don't think that he preached in the tribune where all the speakers would speak. That's not the reference that we get from the Acts of the Apostles. He was in the residential areas with Aquila and Priscilla, perhaps in that area where the town is now. That is a guess that they take from descriptions of the writers of the time too. But he was brought to court in the tribune where the speakers would speak. And that tribune is what you see more like a building there.
Well, Betty, you know, this is so interesting to me because when you hear in church the readings of St. Paul
to the
writing
Corinthians,
to the Corinthians,
yes,
you
yes.
know, and now you can visualize, okay, this was the city that he, you know, sent his letters to.
Yeah, you know, Marv, when you look this at the Agora, like we're seeing right now, if you didn't have a guide with you and you were just on your own, it would just look like a pile of rocks.
That's right.
But when you have somebody with you that it can explain to you what it is you're seeing, the significance of it, it just makes it come alive
really
for you
does,
rather
yeah.
than say, oh my God, another pile of rocks.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
it does. There's also a nice little museum here that's located at Corinth as well. But I was so impressed with this. I was so anxious to get back here again because it was just it's just a marvelous place. And I said we took a little picture there of on top of the hill, and this is what's so interesting.
Yeah,
you know, you can read not only Greek but in the Roman times as well, and you can see whether it was the Greek language or the Roman language that are written on these stones, and we'll see that as we go through Greece. You know, depending on the period, who was in charge at the time, whether it was the Romans or whether it was the Grecians or whatever.
I like the reference to St. Paul though all the time, because all the time you're there and you read to the Corinthians or any of his letters, but to have been right there. It's just when you go to Mass after read the Bible after this, you automatically say, yeah, I was there, I saw that, I was where he was.
Right.
Oh, it makes it. You're more fulfilled with it.
Well, I think so. You can, and that's been the pleasurable thing about us doing the traveling for the last 20 years is that we go to so many places, historic places, especially those that have some sort of a religious significance as well, and it does bring it all alive to you too. Look at the road, Betty. This is the original road.
Now that's marble, isn't it?
Yeah, and the ruts in the road from the chariots and this type of thing. I mean, just amazing,
And now we go to the opposite,
we have left
the modern.
Yeah, now we're back to the modern city again, and now this is the area, of course, that we are anxiously awaiting to get on our ship and go to the Greek Isles. And there are so many roads that come into the port center here, and it depends on what berth you're going to. I mean, as to what road you take.
Isn't that
big?
traffic?
And the Greeks are so great with shipping. In fact, the wealthier Greeks made their money in shipping.
Naxos, wasn't that
Yeah,
his?
one of them. Yeah, one of the
But
big
look
ones,
at all
yeah.
the entrepreneurs, all the little stores.
Yeah.
You know, the merchandise everywhere, everywhere. It makes me think of some of the pilgrimage places that we've been where they sell the rosaries and, one right after the other. But
Right.
these are utilitarian things,
Right,
though, not
yeah.
holy
And I love the outdoor markets.
Yeah, I
you
do.
know.
too.
I
Of course,
really love the outdoor
that's my
market.
favorite.
Well, of course, yeah.
I-
That's what
that's-
makes it fun. And look at the fish market.
Well, not
right
this
here,
kind
too.
particularly, because
Ah.
they're just a little smelly, but
Well-
fresh,
But it is fresh.
Yeah.
It was, see, E7 and E8, the gates to that one, you're going to go in that direction. And of course, we were there in November, and they were getting ready for Christmas. You see a couple of Santa Clauses that are climbing up the wall right there that I thought was really kind of cute. But anyway, it's marvelous here. And here we go.
There
Oh,
we
my
are.
golly. Look at the ships. That's the way to get, of course, to the islands, and there are so many islands. And if you're traveling, you can either take your car on some of these ferry boats, or you can take the bigger boats, which will do the same thing. Take you overnight to one island or the other, or whatever. And it's just
It's
a
good. When
great
my
way to travel.
daughter and her husband came over here, they were on their own, but they took a ferry boat, and they took a ferry boat that went at night, so they had a berth. They
Right.
didn't need a hotel. They're
Wake
always
up in the
looking to
morning and
save
you're on an
money.
island.
You wake up in the morning I was at Patmos that they went. So they had their destination. Then they find a place to stay. I
Right.
mean, they really were adventuresome.
Well, you know what happens on a lot of those islands when those boats come in. Not necessarily these, the cruise boats, but when the ferry boats come in, the people who have rooms to rent are down there at the dock, and you can negotiate with them as far as the price and whether you're going to have a breakfast or a lunch, or whether you have a little kitchenette or something like that in there. And so it's a great way to do it. I mean,
I
if
noticed-
you're traveling, by yourself, if you're not on a tour.
Yeah, and you have to be young, and you have to do research. You have to really know what it is you're looking for when you get to where you're going.
Yeah, because there's so much to see.
Yeah.
I mean, we visited some islands this time that we did not on our last trip, and things that I didn't know about. I mean, it just blew my mind this time because I hadn't. I have to admit I hadn't read up on some of the things because I didn't know exactly what we were going to see, but it was something. Now there's one of the ferry boats as you see
Yeah,
right here,
yeah.
and you can get a cabin
Suzanne
on
said
that.
they're just wonderful.
Oh, it's
and
great.
inexpensive.
Yeah, no, it's
Inexpensive.
what a way to travel. And of course, the waters in the Greek Isles are just so beautiful. I mean, you just want to jump off the ship and go swimming. It's so
Not
pretty.
me. You might want to jump off the ship and go swimming.
We will see you next time. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.